Hi everyone, nice to see you. Thank you for being here today. Hello, my name's Megan. I work in the marketing and communications team at the audience agency. There's a few faces here I recognise and names that I recognise, which is lovely. For audio description purposes, I'm a white woman with longish dark brown hair in a green t-shirt today. And I am joined by my lovely colleague Samira. Would you like to introduce yourself, Samira?
Sure. Hi there, I am Samira. I am the service and support manager here at the audience agency. So if you come in on the support desk, I'm the person that you have been speaking to. I look like this. For audience description purposes, I am a white female with hexagonal glasses. I can never
We have this
remember. We
every
have
time.
this every time. And my hair is currently back in a bun and I'm in a black t-shirt because it is warm here in Manchester today. I don't know about everybody else.
Sure is. Yes, sure is toasty. Yeah,
Um,
lovely. Thank you. Just a couple of little bits of housekeeping before we get started. We're going to run for about an hour today. We're hoping to have some time for questions at the end, so do stick around if you can. But we also will honour that finish time of 3 o'clock because we know people have got other commitments. We're all busy. But please do put questions as we go in the chat. We've got a bit of a presentation here, obviously, but we're happy to go off on a tangent if we need to, if there's other stuff we want to address. There's also a couple of our colleagues in the background as well who'll be able to answer questions in the chat as we go as well. And just to say, we are recording today's session. We will put it up on YouTube to rewatch, and we will send out a link to that recording and the slides and notes of any of the kind of particular tools we've talked about or the projects that we're going to touch on. So don't worry if you don't get everything down or you're distracted doing an urgent email or something. It's fine. We will send all of that to you. We do have Zoom captioning enabled as well. There should be an option to switch that on via the button at the bottom of your screen. But any problems, anything like that, stick it in the chat and whoever of us isn't speaking at the time will try and help you out with that. So this is a little slightly a variant on a regular session that Samira and I do for various clients or potential clients about audience answers. And this one we put a little bit of a spin on it, and obviously, the reason you're on here is because this is kind of a specific session for freelancers, for consultants, for agencies. We're very aware that's a very broad church as well, and there'll be people here who are representing quite large agencies, and there'll be people here who are individual freelancers, and you'll all be working with very diverse different types of clients, just as we do. The culture sector is broad and wide. And you are all kind of working in different ways and on different kinds of projects, short-term, long-term, evaluation, audience development, marketing. So we're absolutely not going to be able to make this very personalized to a specific area that you're working on, but it's more of a kind of just open the conversation, give a little hint of what the sort of the sorts of services we've got that might be able to support you, and hopefully encourage a little bit of conversation. And if you want to come back to us and pick up on anything after this event, you're really welcome. It'll be Samira that you talk to, so you know what she looks like now, and you can we can go from there. So what we're going to go through today briefly, as I say, it's a modified version of another session that we do. We're going to obviously introduce ourselves and the audience agency briefly. If you don't know us, we'll hopefully fill in that gap for you. If you do know us, feel free to ignore it. You've heard it all before, but we'll be quick. We'll touch on a few of our kind of new and current projects that we're working on. We won't spend too much time there, but just some highlights of things that we're up to really that are of kind of wider interest to the sector, where things are going on some bigger projects. And then Samira is going to talk specifically about some of the tools, the services, the reports, the kind of work that we can do in audience answers, which can either help you deliver a project for a client, or it could help you perhaps leave a legacy for that client, an ongoing process of evaluation or monitoring that they can then take on once you've finished the work that you're doing with them as well. So hopefully that'll be useful. As I say, not everything is going to be relevant to everybody here, but hopefully you can pick out the bits that do work as well. And then fourth item on this list, this is exciting. We're going to have a first look at Audience Spectrum Genie, which we will get to. We're excited about this. This is the first time we've talked about it publicly, and we just really want to know. It's a new tool, a new thing that we've kind of developed. and we'd love to know what you think of it. So you're our first test group of guinea pigs who we're going to put this in front of and see if you think it's a good thing or not. And then hopefully we'll have a bit of time towards the end for questions as they come up. As I say, any questions in the chat as we go, and one of us will pick them up as we go through. So just a very brief reminder of who we are at the Audience Agency. That's our kind of primary purpose there at the top. We're all about sharing insight to help the cultural sector adapt for and with their communities. So we're all about data, but we're about useful and relevant data. We're about collaboration and sharing of knowledge and sharing of understanding and insight, really. We're non-profit. We're an independent research agency. We look at mixed methods of research, quantitative, qualitative. We work with a huge diversity of organisation, hundreds of them across the country. That's everything from sort of big performing arts organisations through to galleries, local authorities, small museums. The whole spectrum is in there. And as noted at the bottom there, it's all about collaboration, really, is a kind of theme that runs through everything we're doing. And on the right is a random mix of pictures of our team, which I pulled from our website earlier, and I hadn't even appreciated that it changes each time you look at the website. It pulls out new people each time. It's very cool. So these are our kind of main areas that we work in. We have a research team, we have a consultancy team, and these are our kind of areas of specialism. You may work in some of these or none of these or all of them, who knows? But essentially our expertise is in audience development, participation, evaluation and impact. They're very kind of core strands of work that we've pretty much always done and continue to be a really central part of what we do. Digital transformation, you might be aware that we merged with Culture 24 a couple of years ago now. So their team have come on board with us and are leading on the digital transformation strand of work that we do. Touch on that a little bit more in a sec. Creative economy and creative places are the two other pillars, or these 5 pillars that we're focusing on as well. So if that's anything that you're working on, you want to kind of work with us or get some support from one of our experts, those are the kind of people that we have around as well, and we're always willing to have a chat. And what that looks like in practice, we provide, as well as that sort of consultancy service of people expertise and knowledge, we also have sort of tools and services, which is the kind of main gist of what we'll be talking about today. And they're all available on different kind of payment options. Some are free, some are pay as you go, some are on annual subscriptions, some are subsidised by national funders. We offer quite a lot of services for free to organisations in Scotland and Wales because of funding from those respective governments. But they essentially break down into sort of the 3 strands here. There's Audience Answers. If you've been around for a while, you may remember Audience Finder. Audience Answers is the successor to that and has been around now for a few years in its current iteration, and it's something that you could use as a consultant or a freelancer on behalf of an organisation, or it's something that the organisation can use themselves as well. Audience Spectrum, again, something many people will probably be familiar with, but if you're not, very briefly, we'll talk about it later, but it's our segmentation tool basically for segmenting the entire UK population and looking at the kind of the differing behaviour around engagement with arts and culture. And it runs through everything that we do. It's a sort of golden thread through everything. So you can't escape Audience Spectrum around here, not for long anyway. And the 3rd strand on there is Let's Get Real, which is the strand of work that came in when we merged with Culture 24 that I mentioned just now. And it's a collaborative research and learning programme for cultural organisations to sign up to. It's quite long term. They sign up for about 8 to 10 months of quite in-depth work with us. That takes the form of training, of workshops, of experimentation. This year they're all thinking about AI and how to use AI well in the sector, in this kind of brave new world that we're in. And then it usually culminates in a conference at the end of that year. The last conference was in January. I think the next one will be in spring next year. So those are the kind of 3 sort of kind of key tools to highlight. But I also just wanted to quite briefly, and we'll send out links to more information on all of these. So if any of these really make you go, oh, that's interesting, we will send links to more information. Again, won't be relevant to everyone, but just to highlight a couple of the kind of big projects that we're working on at the moment. One here is the National Culture Data Observatory. And I confess I'm not involved in this at all, so I have relatively limited information. But fundamentally, it's a project to look at how we can bring together all the many and varied sources of data around the cultural sector to really kind of make using it as effectively as possible. Really, we've got all these kind of sources of information going on. How can we bring those together? And that project is really major piece of work that's going on with the Centre for Cultural Value, MyCake and Culture Commons. And it's looking at how, at the moment, it's very much at the early stages, just looking at how all of that could be aggregated and brought together. There is a LinkedIn page, if that's of interest. That link, the link that's on the slide there, will be live in the follow-up we send. So if you do want to kind of keep up with how that conversation and that blueprint is progressing, you'll be able to do it through that LinkedIn group as well. Though we will send out stuff on our newsletters as well as it develops. Hamlet is an AI project fundamentally, or an AI-based project. We're very much in an AI phase at the moment, and I feel like that's probably true for everybody. But it's essentially looking at how we can make AI work sensibly for the cultural sector. So how can we ensure that it's ethical and that it's sustainable, and we're using it in a way that actually works for everyone, and that it's accessible to everyone as well. So it's not just something. It's not just the preserve of the great big institutions who've got the big digital teams and the big structures to be able to really get into this, but how can it work for all organisations at all sizes and all scales, no matter what resources they've got? How can we make the most of it? Again, it's a really interesting project that's kind of unfolding. If you follow our LinkedIn, you'll probably be seeing a few updates from our colleague Stephen, who is leading on this project. He seems to always be off at some event in Europe or something talking to people about this. But it's a really interesting thing that feels very topical and very kind of much at the forefront of where many organisations are really grappling with these issues. And number 3, again, touched on it before, our Let's Get Real programme this year is all about AI. There's a theme here, isn't there? But we've got a cohort of 14 organisations out there testing out different approaches to AI and learning from each other and learning from our experts and other experts from across the sector as well. And that will all be collated into a report. And as I mentioned before, that end of year, beginning of year, who knows, end of project conference, which we're planning at the moment. So do keep an eye out on that. It's a really interesting program that they're doing, and it's a very, very diverse group of organisations that are working on that, different scales, different places, different setups. So one final thing to just mention, that is not really a new project, but it's definitely an interesting and relevant project, and that's the Cultural Participation Monitor, which continues. It started up during COVID and the very early days of COVID, I believe, before my time, but I believe it was the early days of COVID, to monitor what was going on with the sector during COVID, what was going on with audiences. I think we all knew it was pretty disruptive, but we have continued that regular population survey every few months, where we are asking people all sorts of questions of the moment, fundamentally. And it's a representative population sample, so it's not just people who are highly culturally engaged or people who we have a relationship with. This is a random sample of the population. And we're looking for intel on what feels like a hot topic at the moment, really. So right-hand side of the screen there, we've listed some of the kinds of topics that we've covered up till now. We're always interested in suggestions for future iterations of the Cultural Participation Monitor. If you're hearing from clients that everyone's getting quite concerned about X issue or has a query about Y trend that they're seeing amongst their audiences, we could look at incorporating that into this regular work that we're doing as well. So do get in touch if you've got some thoughts on that one. We're very much up for that conversation. And all of those findings are shared in the newsletter, on the website, and in these monthly events we call tea breaks. We had one yesterday, but there'll be another one in July. So watch this space. So that's enough blather about news and what we're kind of up to at the moment. If anything's caught your eye, we'll direct you to more resources on all of those projects. But let's move on to the important and interesting stuff that we're here for. And I'm going to hand over to Samira for this next section.
Oh, there we go. That was nice and very seamless. Hello everyone, just a nice hello again. So, how we can help you. So, the products that we have, there's a very large suite of products that we have on offer for you and your clients to use to get a grip of who their audiences are, or maybe what audiences are out there lurking that they're not quite getting on board with yet. So, we have a number of different methods that we use to kind of give you that information, mainly in the form of paid for reports. But there is also some options of dashboards as well. If that is something that clients are kind of looking for, we can kind of work with you on that. So all of our tools that we have, we will work with you first and foremost to make sure that you're getting what you need. You come to us, you come to us, you come to me. I'm here to kind of work with you on what the brief is that your client or you are looking for, and making sure that you're getting exactly what you need to make sure that you're servicing them and you correctly, to make sure that everyone's doing the work that they need and want. So on the screen here you can see we've kind of got a few ways of how we can help. But Megan, if I know you're in charge of the slideshow today, could you go on to the next page for me, please? Thank you very much. Thank you. So in practice, basically that means yes, we've got a range of off the peg and bespoke services that we can kind of work with you to deliver. We also have a number of free options as well. So we have a lovely mapping tool that is available on the Audience Spectrum microsite that gives you lots of information on UK population data and things like that that you can use at any point to kind of get an idea of what audiences are around your client or yourself. So you're able to kind of look at that and go, oh, we're not tapping into this or we are tapping into that. Audience Spectrum, for those who don't know, is our segmentation system that is solely built for the arts and cultural sector. It is wonderful. It is complex. You can lose an afternoon just looking at the map. Megan has regularly done that. So have I, to be fair. But as a really good starting point to get yourself or clients involved in segmentation, the mapping tool is a really fun way for them to interactive, fun way for them to kind of get on board, and look at their area and familiarize themselves and work out from there. It's a really nice way to do that. So yes, there you go. Megan, next page. Thank you very much. So when you're wanting to understand current audiences, these are the ways in which we would do it. So first of all, it would be an audience spectrum profile. So on top of the mapping tool, we also offer paid for reports that kind of come in a nice boxed option for you to use with any audiences that you're working with. Audience spectrum profiling, where we basically take a list of postcodes that you have from your client or yourself, and we can then profile them for you into a report that gives you some nice information about the area that you're wanting to profile those postcodes against. So we take a base area. My brain has gone, it's too warm. A base area that we compare that data against, and we're able to tell you your data versus the area that you're looking at. How do you compare? Are there things there that you're missing? Are there things there that you're servicing and that's great? Are there areas that you could improve? It gives you an idea around those behaviors and motivations of those audiences that are right on your doorstep and that you're getting through the doors, but also who could be out there as well. And on top of that, you're also able to do audience spectrum profiling just from a list. So if you don't need any of that information, if you're sat there going, I already know all of the things there is to know about audience spectrum, I've worked with it for years, but I just need those postcodes profiling, we can do that for you as well. That's completely fine, not a problem. We can just give you a spreadsheet of those postcodes with the audience spectrum type next to them. That's not a problem. And finally, if your client is in, or you are in the the mood for a dashboard, we can work with your ticketing data to provide a dashboard for your clients so they're able to kind of see baseline information about their ticketed audiences, but also the audience spectrum of those audiences as well. If you're looking for some geographical analysis, we have a number of reports that can help with that. The first and foremost one is a distance and drive time report. It's a really, really useful report for you to be able to kind of look at who is on your doorstep, who is right there, but most importantly, that report is telling you like how far people are traveling. So we use your data to kind of look at how far they're coming and then give you an average of a drive time that is probably going to be your sweet spot to figure out where to get your audiences to come from. So it's a really good basis report. If you're unsure, you're wanting a report to kind of figure out further down the line what that audience development plan will look like, a distance and drive time report is a really good place to start because we can deliver that report and then go, okay, so we'd say probably a 90-minute drive time is your sweet spot for getting people to come through the doors. So that's what that report is there for. We also have what are called population profile reports, which are wonderful little reports that I like to recommend to absolutely everybody, where you give us a drive time or a distance that you're looking to profile versus a base area, and we provide data to you that's based on the UK census as well as a myriad of different bits of data that we've collected and collated over the years from our very lovely clients, but also different kinds of reports and things that we've done to produce a report for you that gives you all of that information combined. They're really, really useful, particularly if you're working with a venue that's looking to do an audience development plan, because it gives them a really good basis of who is right there. And because it's based on the census and the census doesn't update that regularly, in terms of value for money, you're looking at a really good little report there, specifically when the census data is fairly new. So it's a good way for a client to kind of look at that and go, okay, we can base this for the next 5 to 10 years. And Megan and I, when we used to work in venues, used to use them regularly. Megan particularly, you would use them quite a lot, wouldn't you? To make sure that you were hitting those targets that were necessary. And then finally, if you are wanting to do any surveying of audiences, we have our audience answers surveys that are available for you guys to kind of use and to then profile your audiences from those audience surveys. Surveys are my love, and we basically offer a survey that is based on a set of core questions, half attitudinal, half demographic. And on top of that, then you're able to add additional questions from our very extensive question library. And if none of those fit, then we can add bespoke questions as well. Once you start collecting data on the survey, you get a dashboard that you're able to log into and review the data through that dashboard and do any analysis that you wish to do. We also provide on the dashboard some nice charts and graphs that you can use free of charge, no extra charge. You can just download them into reports. As I like to say, it's the freebie that we give you for paying us to kind of provide a survey to you, and it makes you look really good in front of boards. So we just give it to you for free. If you're looking for any market analysis, there's lots of things that we can offer. First of all, those population profile reports that I talked about before, they're there to help you understand that full population of a specific geographic area, which is a way better way of saying it than I did before. And then finally, a PPPP report, which is basically a propensity and potential analysis. I can never say that word, where we take ticketed booking data and put audience spectrum in there to help you find similar people that are most likely to help you engage with your audiences. So again, it's a little bit of a wayfinding activity. Who's going to be out there that you can kind of work with, or you could kind of bring into the fold of that organization that you're working with. Next slide, please, Megan, whenever you're ready. Thank you very much. But all that to say, all of those reports are paid for. So if you're looking for things that are free, easy for your clients to kind of get on board with, or you to get on board with, the sector evidence and insight section, which is free of charge and sits outside of the login wall of Audience Answers, the platform that we've kind of talked about over this session a little bit so far, you can go on there for free and explore trends and look at the cultural participation monitor free of charge. The audience spectrum microsite is also sits outside of the login feature, so you're able to kind of go on there at any time and explore those segments, but also explore that mapping tool. And we also have regular sessions that Megan conducts alongside our, is he a head of insights, I think his title is, Oliver, called Tea Breaks, where the designers, you sit down with a cup of tea and listen for half an hour to the regular insights that we share that we're finding through our research. So they're all really good starting points if you're new, or if your client is new, and or if you're just interested in keeping up with what's going on in the sector in terms of audiences. All of those things are available for you to kind of look at national view, regional view for audience spectrum things, and then the cultural participation monitor on more of a rolling basis. There we go. Megan, I
Nice
think
one. Thank you,
that is
Samira.
everything.
Yeah, and I'm just gonna pick up on a couple of a question we had in the chat,
Of
which is just
course.
around dashboards and what they look like. We usually do demo dashboards in our audience answers introduction sessions, but for most of our introduction sessions, the people coming are the cultural organisations themselves. They're the theatres, the art galleries, whatever. So they're the holders of the data. So it kind of makes more sense to demo the dashboard for them than for you guys. But that said, if anyone would like to actually see what those dashboards look like, we do have some videos and we can send them out afterwards. We've got some of those sessions recorded. Or you're very welcome to drop in and join one of those introductory sessions. We don't discriminate, anyone's welcome. The next one is next week and we do them roughly on a monthly basis. So if you would like to see what a live dashboard looks like in terms of that ticketing data analysis or those survey responses as they come in and what that looks like for the client, then you'd be very welcome to join us at those sessions. So yeah.
We'd love to have you there.
Absolutely, yeah. Great. Is there anything else in the chat, Samira, that I've missed before we move along?
Don't think so, no.
No. Okay, great.
It's all just a lot of very helpful links from you and Lucy.
Yeah,
So please feel free to have a click on all of them so that you're able to kind of get to those things that I was just talking about. And any questions, send them in the chat and or just drop us a line. I'll put the support email into the chat now so you can drop us a line if there's something more specific you want to chat about.
Great. Yeah, and hopefully you've kind of got the gist from this, that while we do have some of these off-the-shelf type reports, things like drive time and distance report or a population profile, they're off the shelf and they're quite standardized. That might work for you. We're also always up for a conversation about something that's more bespoke as well. And if you do have something very particular you want to get into for an area that you're working in or a client that you're working with, just let us know and we'll do our best to accommodate with what we've got. Cool. Okay, so I'm going to move on and have a quick glance at audience spectrum for anyone that might be a bit less familiar with it. But then a little bit excitingly, we're going to go and look at Genie. We're going to look at Genie. We've been building up to this for ages, so we're very excited about this one, and I hope it's worth it. Just as a reminder, Audience Spectrum is our profiling and segmentation tool. It, as we've mentioned before, it runs through everything that we do. So if you ordered one of those population profile reports from us, as well as all the information, just an example, as well as all the information about the demographics of an area or the socioeconomic indicators in that area, there would be an audience spectrum profile of that population that you have chosen, that catchment area that you have chosen. So it applies to every household in the UK, whether they are regular cultural attenders or not. That's the point. There will be a segment that household falls into. And we're building it from the massive data sets that we've got about cultural engagement from various sources, as well as from sources like the census, like Mosaic and Experian, and all those kind of different sources going to it. Again, we can talk more about this if you want to, and if you're interested in that, please get in touch and we can talk more about the kind of mechanics behind Audience Spectrum, what goes into it. But the kind of key points about it that we've got on here is that it can be applied to both an organisation's audience and to a potential audience, to a population. So you can do that looking at who you've got and who you might not have got, or where the potential might be in an area as well. It's a common language. It's certainly, it's a very prevalent segmentation tool. Many people are familiar with it. I used to find working in a venue that a lot of the touring companies that came in spoke the language of audience spectrum, which is wonderful because you could just, have that shorthand. We're hearing some really interesting case studies of organisations who are, we've just published one recently actually from Shakespeare North Playhouse, who are actually using audience spectrum to really start a conversation across the audience, across the organisation about audiences. So they're not just a common language across the sector, but a common language within an organisation. The hope is that everyone understands audiences in those terms rather than vague, nebulous, slightly different between department to department terms. The whole organization is on board with the core audience spectrum segments that organization is pursuing. So it's a shorthand, and it seems to be very, very useful for many people to do that. And obviously it's meant to be practical. So there's a whole suite of guides in terms of how to engage each of those segments. They're genuinely really, really useful. They give you kind of big picture stuff like what this segment is motivated by, what their values are, what they're looking for in a night out or a heritage visit or whatever. But then those guides also give you some very practical stuff around the actual tactics that you could use to engage them. So if you were writing a tactical marketing plan for somebody and you'd sussed out which segments they need to go for, those guides will actually give you those practical tactics. Does this group respond well to social media, or does this group respond better to out of home? All of that sort of stuff is kind of built into those segment specific guides. This is just too small to read on the screen, but it's not meant to be. It's just a reminder that there are 10 segments, and each of those segments is broken down into two. So there are 20 sub-segments altogether. They range from our most engaged metroculturals on the top left to our least engaged down on the right-hand side, our supported communities. Full stuff about this available on the Audience Spectrum site. Oh no, I've got a little screenshot of the guide as well. These are the motivation guides that accompany each of those segments. So you can see from that the sort of stuff you're getting in there. You're getting, stuff around where these people actually are, where they actually live, how they like to be communicated with, what they're motivated by. It's all there to kind of dig into. As Samira intimated, I may have lost an afternoon or two to going down these rabbit holes. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. It's fine. It's fine. But it's a really useful kind of if you are looking for how to help an organisation with that very practical on the ground engagement tactic stuff, these guides are gold dust really to get into. And a final thing just to mention here as well, this might not be relevant for everybody, but what another service we can provide is if you are working with an organisation that is ticketed and has a ticketing system, one of the perhaps legacy things you could leave them with is this option to tag every single booker on their system with an audience spectrum segment. Not every single booker, there will be some exceptions if people are given dodgy postcodes or something, but generally the vast majority of bookers can be tagged. And that can be regularly updated. And that means that I've got a very loud dog barking outside, distracting me there. But that means that an organisation can then in future create a segmented mailing list for a segment, or they can do some reporting that looks at how many of which segment came to which performance. So it's a really nice legacy thing if you are, for example, setting an objective around engaging a particular segment. This will help that organisation go through and track it over future months and years as well, is that kind of tagging. So again, talk to us if that's something that is of interest. So Jeannie, here we are, we got here. Whilst we're on a theme of audience spectrum, Jeannie really has come about because there's this kind of recognition that lots and lots of people know what audience spectrum is, and they sort of, at an intellectual level, understand it. They get, yep, okay, it's a segmentation tool, cool. I can see a chart of my bookers, my audience, my survey respondents by audience spectrum type, but so what? What can I do with it? Why does that matter? And actually, what is really difficult when, as we all know, when you're in the thick of working in a venue or an organisation, you're so bogged down in the day-to-day that you often have very little time to kind of have that think about, well, how do I actually apply this? This is great data, but how do I apply it? And we've written some guides and we've had some case studies, but there's still this kind of hurdle for a lot of people to get over is from, okay, data, cool, that's nice, I like this. But what does that actually mean? Oh, an email's coming from my boss about something I need to do urgently, and I forget all about it and never go back to it. So with the kind of advent of AI tools and GPTs and clever tools like this, we're kind of jumping on that bandwagon a little bit, and we have created a very much a prototype at the moment, a GPT tool which is designed to help people put the practical stuff put the data and the insights into action around audience spectrum. It is very much a prototype, with the caveat that we would love some feedback on it. So if you like the look of this, and I'll do a little demo in a sec of the kind of power and the sort of things we've got going on there. If you like the look of it and you would like an early access to it, we can send you the link and you're very welcome to have a play with it. And we'd love to hear what you think, whether you think it's spitting out absolute rubbish and this is no good to anyone, and why have you wasted your time building this? But on the flip side, if you think there's something good here and there's something that can be genuinely useful, we'd love to hear what that is as well. We're inching it out slowly out into the world, and you're actually the first time we've talked about it publicly. So I'm just going to stop sharing that PowerPoint for now and just share my desktop, because I have pre-fed a couple of prompts into Genie, and I'm hoping that this will give us a little bit of an indication of the sort of thing that you could do with it, really. There's very many, obviously the world's your oyster with this sort of stuff, but just thought we'd try a couple of different prompts and see what it came back with. So as you can see, it sits on ChatGPT. You will need a ChatGPT login to use it. It's just a little add-on that you can access in ChatGPT. So if you're familiar with using ChatGPT, you'll be fine with this. It's exactly the same. I loaded these up earlier just because I didn't want to sit and wait for my slow, cranky internet if that was the case. You can see the first query that I've put in there is that, okay, hypothetical marketing officer, I'm working on a campaign for a risky contemporary drama, would like to reach under 35s, can you suggest some? And then what it's given me is quite a decent little breakdown, I think. We'd always urge caution, obviously, use common sense, don't take AI at its word, put the human brain on it as well. But this might just give some starting points for people. So it's picked out what the key audience segment the target might be for that kind of more contemporary drama type work. It's then broken down some tactics for each of those segments. It's taking it from the hypothetical into the realm of very practical. So for the experience seekers here, it's giving some ideas around the kind of emotive language that you might want to use. It's also suggesting some channels you could use and what people are most likely to respond to for that segment. It's also suggesting some add-ons, loyalty schemes and cafe discounts. Gosh, they know as well. We all like a loyalty card that can be stamped. It suggests influencers. It's kind of giving you that little start into thinking about what a practical campaign for this segment might look like. Again, metrocultural, frame it as intellectually stimulating, culturally relevant, or socially challenging. But again, it's tapping into those kind of the intrinsic values and emotional factors there as well. Channels, highbrow editorial content. I quite like this. Same for kaleidoscopic creativity. So I won't go through them all, but you can see what it's doing there as well. It's also giving some ideas for crossover as well, and things that will work across the board. Some ideas as well for the under 35s demographic. So that was prompt number 1 that I gave it. This one, again, for a different type of organisation, perhaps. There's a lot of stuff in Audience Spectrum as well about donations and fundraising, very much incorporated in it, how you could approach each segment for fundraising purposes. So we've just asked it here, which Audience Spectrum segments are most likely to donate to a heritage project? Great question. Oh, it's lovely, isn't it, the way it congratulates you? Well done, thoughtful person. Great question. Here are the segments that are most likely to respond to a donation ask for a heritage project, a little bit about them and the reasons for donating. And then it also gives us, you can then go on from that into getting some practical ideas. I haven't done it here, but you could then prompt it, okay, how could I convert a dormitory dependable to a donor, for example, and it gives us some ideas. And the final one I've put on here is just one maybe for the more sort of data nerds amongst us who like to, kind of look at the big picture. What's the geographic spread of lower engaged audience spectrum segments? So we've got a breakdown here and where you're most likely to find those different segments and where they are across the country. Kaleidoscope creativity, inner city neighbourhoods, higher university, etc., etc. So that just gives you a little bit of a sense of what's there, what's available. As I say, we're really keen to get some feedback and to have people test it out for us and just have a bit of a play with it as well. And if you would like to be part of that, let us know. We'll put a link in the follow-up email as well, so you can sign up for it there as well. So yeah, that is Genie. That is the genie is now out of the bottle, as they say. Ooh, see what we did there. That's good. We're hoping to grow it. We're hoping to launch it more widely, and we're really hoping that it will bridge that gap for people between understanding of segmentation and actual application of segmentation. And it might help you as well in those conversations, particularly if you're working in a geographic area that you're less familiar with, or a type of organization you're not so familiar with, and you just want a quick kind of primer on what segments do go to heritage. You could, I don't know much about heritage. You could use this to kind of start you off and start that ball rolling and that thought process. It's never going to be a substitute for us humans, obviously. It's never going to replace the clever creative thinking and good copywriting and all that sort of stuff that we do and we know is vitally important, but it will hopefully just kind of set the ball rolling for a lot of people as well. I will stop sharing that sec and just go back to our slides. I think we have come to the end